Welcome to the Empowering Choices podcast. My name is Joshua.
I am Lucas.
And I'm Eric.
And those are his shoes.
Those are his very bright shoes.
If you can look in the wide shot, please focus on those.
And Lucas and Eric are licensed professional counselors. And speaking of licenses, I feel like you need a license for those shoes. They are so bright.
You need sunglasses.
Yes.
Can't think of a good license that you would require for those shoes. Probably a biohazard transportation authorization.
You get a license like they have in Men in Black. You have to wear that outfit to be around these shoes.
Wait, I have to anyway.
Yeah, and the glasses,
on.
I
have to wear the glasses to dim the shoes
down. You guys brought this up.
Wow,
I just went with it. Now you're done.
So today we're talking about chores for children.
I don't know. It just has this ring to it. Yeah.
Yeah. Chores for children. Well, for some reason, I keep thinking of that Cars for Kids commercial. You guys know what I'm talking about?
No.
It's where you donate your car and they give the proceeds to foster care or something.
We are not affiliated with Cars for Kids.
No,
but
negative.
Chores for Children, we are affiliated with.
Maybe that could be our next, I don't know. It can be like a next nonprofit. Chores for Children.
Chores for Children. I mean, I like the concept. So
yeah, I think it is because it has that same ring as Cars for Kids. But, I was going to ask you, Josh, if your son was doing chores yet.
He does the opposite of chores. He creates chores.
I was just going to ask what the opposite of chores was.
He
messes.
creates work for you.
Yep.
Sure, right? Well, and this is literally so I was trying to find that comic, right?
Yeah.
It's Strange Planet by Nathan Pyle.
Right.
And there's these aliens, and they're looking at this kid going, well, what does it do? And the aliens are like, these limbs are not yet useful. So your child's limbs are not yet useful.
Yeah.
They are destructive and not yet
I will say
creative.
What is fascinating is I have noticed though that he does like order. And so at least he will sometimes
you're going to want to harness that.
Put things in order. And so I have tried to work on this is where all the cars go.
I had a friend who told me that they said if a child is capable of pulling their toys out, they're capable of putting their toys away. Does he put his toys away?
He will sometimes put some things away.
Yeah, you're going to want to lean into that.
He's into the stage right now where he just wants everything.
That's I don't know if that's a stage. I think that's just humans until you train it out of them.
It's just can I bring everything to bed with me? No. But
yeah, and I don't. This is maybe a drift from chores a little bit, but I think it's like right next to it because I tell my kids all the time, if you want to play with the next thing, we have to put the first thing away. Yeah. Right? If you have the magnet tiles strewn all over the living room floor, and you want to play with the stuffed animal basket, no, we have to do the first thing. We have to clean up the first thing first, and it's helped tame some of the mess in our house.
Yeah.
What's your point? What are you going for in having chores or cleanup for kids? I think you have to start there.
Sure, that's fine. Yeah, we just kind of jumped into the middle here, didn't we, Eric?
Exactly.
Yeah, so what would be the purpose of chores and or helping kids clean up their own messes?
Well, and those are possibly two separate things, but I'm going to go with the chores.
Okay.
Research has shown that the number one way around the globe to teach responsibility is the care of animals, which is a chore.
Right, I was going to say, so you're just kind of picking a good example. So you're saying responsibility.
From the most modern of societies and countries to the most remote villages, that is the number one way that kids are taught responsibility.
So you're saying two things, or there's two things that you're saying there that sound important is responsibility is a good outcome of this whole process. And then you said particularly animals. I'm going to guess that animals have I don't know what's the word I'm looking for, like an imperative, right? If you don't feed the animal, something really bad happens.
Yeah, they don't provide for you in any of the ways that you would like them to provide for you.
Yeah, or they die.
But that would be the don't.
Sure. Yeah. And so and by contrast, if my kids their toys in the living room, nothing inherently happens when they don't do that.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, but see, you have to, a part of what I'm kind of coming from is you have to look down the road and say, what is it that I want my child to learn? What's the end goal? If the end goal is for your child to live with you forever and be your best friend, don't worry about it. Okay. Now, it's never going to be less work for you. In fact, it's only going to be more work for you the more kids that you have, because you're always going to be taking care of everything they do. If your goal is that you want your kids to be able to be independent, responsible adults, whether they stay with you or go out into the world, that's what you're looking for as a foundation for chores and or cleanup.
So, I mean, let's raise the question that I kind of have here in the sub points of the notes. Like, I've heard people say, it's like, no, you shouldn't have your children do chores. That's like a violation of the spirit of child labor laws. Like, we don't put children to work. We don't send them to factories. Why would you make them like put the dishes away? Like, they're children. They shouldn't have to do that.
Okay, well, that's a great way to start that. Now, let me ask you this. If you don't buy them everything they want when they want it, isn't that a violation of the spirit of Christmas? I mean, if we're going to go with the spirit of, then the spirit of covers everything. And they just get what they want, and you are their slave. So
that's a summary that kind of covers a lot of ground, doesn't it?
Right. And so it's like, now don't forget, you're also in this country, in America, responsible for anything and everything they do, meaning damage, fines, anything. Okay. You pay for it. So, parent the way you want. But at the same time, what we're looking at is that, kids can do different things and they can be responsible for different things.
Right.
And how you envision how they're going to go in life, it's going to be helpful if you are helping them along that path. There were two defensive players in football, and Seattle Seahawks actually signed them both, and they're twin brothers, and one of them does not have a hand.
Oh, interesting.
And so, one day a reporter was asking, the other, twin who has both his hands, he said, what's it like having your brother, on the same team? And he's like, well, we've kind of always been on the same team. It's great. And he goes, well, I mean, is it hard for him? And he looked at the reporter and he goes, oh, you're talking about his hand that he doesn't have. Oh, okay. Yeah, no, it's actually harder for me.
It's harder for me with both hands.
With both hands. He said,
my gosh.
And the reporter goes, what? How can that be?
Right,
And
yeah,
he said,
I'd have the same reaction. Wait, hang on. Explain that to me.
Right. He said, well, our dad never treated us any differently. Everything he expected me to do, he expected him to do. So he gave him the mindset that life is going to be hard just in general. Now, how do you want to embrace it?
Right,
and
now what?
he encouraged him to embrace it and embrace it. In fact, he's better than I am.
He's better than I am, and he's
With one
missing
hand.
a hand.
Yeah.
Wow.
That's crazy.
And so is that a violation of child labor laws? No. But could the brother have one day, if he watched his other brother, make it to the NFL and he never got a chance to that, could he then turn to his dad and say, why were you so easy on me? I could have been there too. It's a possibility.
Well, I have a friend who one of the things that he told me really stuck out to me. He said, I think my parents raised great kids. I think they could have done a better job raising good adults. And that's kind of the topic that we're talking about of like, you need to be raising adults. You need to be picking up on whatever your child's developmental level is and aiming at adult.
Right.
My kids have a desire to want to be involved. Right. My wife will be sweeping in the house and my 2-year-old will go find her little toy broom and be like, me sweep.
Right.
Right. And so there's also like an inherent, I want to do the things mommy and daddy do. And because we do clean stuff around the house. I mean, at least sometimes, they want to imitate that as well.
Yeah.
They're called mirror neurons.
Yeah.
I guess I missed it, but my son actually has been doing something. He's been pushing around a little lawnmower.
Yeah.
It just makes popping noises, but
Sure.
maybe
He's
it'll
liking
convert to the yard. But I do wonder something. I'd be interested to hear your take on this. So one of my things that I hated was when a chore didn't make sense. When it was just like, clean this thing that has nothing to do with you, that's completely removed from anything in your life, like this random closet that I had no part of, versus a chore like, hey, help clean up the dishes because these are the dishes that we just ate off of. And if we can clean them up and put them back, then tomorrow we're going to be able to whatever. So is there some legitimacy in trying to make sure that as you're giving chores, they're making sense and that there's some sense of like, oh, when I throw away all the trash can gets full. We can't put anything more in it. So that's why I empty it. And is that a better place to start than, hey, clean up this thing that has nothing to do with you. That's a mess we made 20 years ago.
Well, I can imagine that. I mean, I feel like in my life, it is more natural to have the kids help with the things that are in front of them.
Yeah.
Clean up your toys that you just made a mess with before you clean the next toys. And again, I don't know if that's a chore per se, but I think it's in the same vein. I'm trying to think what else that we have the kids do right now. Because there's not, we have them like throw stuff away.
Yeah.
Right. Like I want you to, we're beginning to teach them, like, I want you to take your plate from the table and I want you to bring it over here into the kitchen. So I think it's natural in my life to have them do the things that are more, what's the word I'm looking for? Kind of just naturally connected So as opposed to, yes, please clean out the closet. I think that's above their capabilities at this point anyway.
Right. And I guess some of the reason I ask that too is because I feel like I've seen chores treated as punishment. And especially chores as punishment, like then get into I have no clue why I'm doing this. I'm just doing this.
Sure.
And to me, my question would be like, if we're trying to make better adults, should there be some connection there? Or is it just the idea of make kids do work and then they'll work hard?
So here's the answer to that. You have to know your kid. And you have to know what makes
Are you not giving our audience easy answers?
Yeah.
You're just so terrible about that sometimes.
We do this in the manual. We kind of set it out.
Yeah. Just give me the formula. Give me the steps that work for every kid all the time.
And here's what works. Okay, now, what you have to do is because what are chores? Chores, we just said in the foundation, it's a way of helping a child learn responsibility and basically gaining independence and empowerment within their life.
Right.
Are there ways chores can be used to the developmental level of the child? Yes. When my son first wanted to do chores, he was about 3.5 or 4. He pushed me out of the way of the sink. He brought up a stool. He stood on the stool. He basically said, without words, because he couldn't speak yet, "I'm washing the dishes." And he proceeded to play in the water. Mm-hmm. But he was trying to wash the dishes.
He wanted to wash. He wanted to do the thing that Daddy was doing. Yeah.
So we washed the dishes together, and he was very happy. And then he went to do something else, and I rewashed the dishes. And he began his part of independence. Mm-hmm. When he gets to 7 or 8, if I send him to go clean out a junk closet, let's call it what it is. How does he know what junk is and what junk isn't? Mm-hmm. He doesn't really know. How does he know what to keep, how to not?
Right.
How does he know what's his? Well, it's not his because I didn't send him to clean his closet.
Yeah, in this example.
I just said, go clean this closet. What if he had done something bad and this is a part of his punishment? Mm-hmm. I knew 2 boys, 2 brothers. They were a couple of years apart, and their chore every single day when they came from school was to stack the wood from this end of the yard to this end of the yard.
Yeah, I had a client who said the same thing about their kid.
And they would come home next day and they would stack the wood from this end to the yard to this end to the yard.
So that's a chore.
Wow.
So it was a chore.
Is it a punishment?
Now, is it a punishment or is it what exactly is it? Well, there was a couple of levels. The parents were trying to help them have an activity that they could work together and be able to do as brothers.
Oh, that's right.
They always knew if the brothers were getting along or not getting along, because these were, and actually it wasn't wood, it was, they were hay bales. That's what it was. Yeah.
Those sound bigger and heavier.
Yes, 50 to 75 pounds. And and there was no use for the hay bales other than this chore.
They literally had them for this reason?
Yes.
Oh, that's hilarious.
And so if they were getting along, they would work together and they would get it done in no time. If they were not getting along, they would drag them on their own
without helping each other.
Without helping each other.
And take twice as
long.
long.
The whole thing got done, and it was every day, no matter what the weather. It snowed, it rained, it had sun, it was all these different things. The brothers, especially one of them, was incredibly strong, and it became an advantage to him in football and wrestling. That chore, it had this kind of underlying benefit that they didn't really know about.
It was an exercise workout routine, not on purpose.
Yes.
But
Now, I've known other kids that when they got in trouble, Dad would go outside, depending on the trouble, and he would knock all the wood down from the wood pile. And it was their job to
pick it back up,
restack it, or he wouldn't knock it down. He'd just have them stack it somewhere else.
Right. I want you to move it 4 feet that way.
So the idea is, how do you want to use this? You have to know your kid, because the kids that I knew who had those as kind of punishment chores, or myself, I might get extra chores, because I was given a lot of the things in front of me that made sense.
Right.
Cutting kindling, bringing in wood, clearing dishes, washing dishes, loading the dishwasher, unloading the dishwasher, all these types of things. But if I was bad, then I might get extra chores, or I might get to help with extra chores, like clean the bathroom or dust. I hate.
Is dust a 4-letter word there?
Oh
Eric?
my gosh. And
Don't say that D
the
word.
reason I hate abhor dusting is, partly because my mom would use that, and that was kind of the punishment. Well, you can just stay and help me dust. Or she would send me down to the little old lady's house that lived down just a couple doors from us, and help her dust everything. She had a billion knicknacks.
Oh man.
Oh, and
So you and the feather duster made good friends?
No, you didn't get a feather duster.
You
got a
lick 'em?
rag.
I was just going to say you had to lick them clean.
Yeah, right. So there's different things that you can do with the chores in different levels. You meet them, developmentally where they're at. You have to know your kid.
Right.
And-
Yeah. Well, I was thinking so my wife, when I met her, she was like, just so you know, I don't like to clean and I don't like to cook. That's okay.
Not
an
quite a
opener.
trifecta, but you're working on it.
Right. But what's fascinating is, she feels like she had to do all of these chores as a child, and they just kind of had to do them, and maybe it didn't make sense to her. And so then as an adult, she's like, I can do whatever I want. I don't want to do that anymore. Well, my parents, I feel like we would be like, the house is messy, the yard is whatever. We would all work and do it, and then it would be like a good feeling. We would be like they told me, like, this is nice to have things clean. This is nice to have the yard mowed. This is nice. So then as I got older, then I myself in high school would be like, oh yeah, I need to go mow the yard. Like, it's not looking good. And then I would do it. And then I would come in and take a shower and look out and be like, man, this is nice.
You internalized
this
that
is
value.
nice to have that. So now as an adult, that is that's become the way I think. And so when I'm doing those things, I think my wife, she views them as like still a little bit of meaningless, like this is
drudgery.
Yeah, this is just something I hate, as where I am like, no, this is going to feel good. So like for me, it's like when I get done with this, this feels good to have everything in order. And so that's just kind of one of my thoughts there.
I've seen that. I've had people who, as kids, they were, basically the unhired help. And the parent, generally a mom, absolutely going to make that house spotless every second of every day. And the girls were, that was what they were going to do. Now they've done that their entire childhood. It encompassed a lot of their childhood. Now as adults, they're like, I'm done with that.
Yeah.
I never want to do that ever again.
It's a burnout type thing.
Right. Right.
I used to, like to wash my car. I worked for a car wash with my brother, which had nothing to do with not liking to wash cars. We had a great time. But when you're washing, 113 to 120 to 130 cars in a day for 4 years, my wife will say, hey, do you want to wash the car? And I'll say no. And she's like, I thought you liked to wash cars. I did.
I did. I don't anymore.
I'm done with that. It's, and she'll even, there are times where she'd get me to come out. She's like, come on, it'll be fun. And I'm like, I'll take the hose. And so she's like, okay, get this wet. I'm like, and I get it wet. And then I'm like, okay, I'm done. And I'm like ready to walk away. And she's like, we're not done yet. I'm like, I'm done. I was done when you said you want to wash the car.
Yeah.
And she understands that. And she's like, why do you not like it? I'm like, because I got burnout on it.
Yeah.
This now, when you say, do you want to wash the car? I totally want to drive it to someone to wash it.
I've been out of being a groundskeeper for about 10 years, and I think I might be beginning to turn the corner to think that mowing the lawn might be something I might begin to enjoy again. Mowed a lot of lawn, let me tell you.
Yeah, you did. And that's the thing to kind of look at, because I've had families that they're like, well, we spend family time together and it's doing the chores and then we spend time together.
Right.
And when you really kind of ferret that out, it means everybody's doing a whole lot of chores and everybody's just sitting around.
Yeah.
And you're not talking to each other. You're not doing things with each other. To a kid, and in a kid's emotional thinking, because we're going to come back to the difference between kid thinking and adult thinking, that could last forever. That could go on forever. You know,
in their mind, this is forever and always happens.
I'm not crazy about weeding because that was my main thing to do outside for a long time, but I can do it. I'm not as burnt out of that as I am on dusting.
Yeah.
And I like the approach that your parents had. Hey, let's do this together and let's reflect on how good this feels. Now it's done. And I think one of the things that saved me is that I had all that free time. I could then decide how I wanted to use my time and what I wanted to do with that. It really was when I was bad that I got extra chores.
Yeah.
And so I don't have those feelings, with my own house, except, I told my wife when we got married, I don't dust. And she says, good, I don't do toilets.
Okay.
And so sometimes she'll go, hey, do you want to dust that? I'm like, remember our agreement.
I think that what you just said there kind of encapsulates a lot of what we're talking about. And this is true for, it feels like, every topic we talk about. Chores are a tool, right? You have to know your kid, right? And they're good. They have a place. But then what you were talking about once I did my chores, then I had free time. And so you have to have, in so many things, a balance. Right?
Exactly. I hear parents that say, okay, I know my kid, and they don't want to do anything.
Well, yeah.
Okay. And they're like, well, what am I supposed to do? Well, what are they doing? They are on their phone. They're on their game system. They're on their laptop. They're on their iPad. Well, it makes sense that they don't want to go and pull weeds. Why would you want to do that?
Sure.
Why would you want to help with anything? Because you have all electronics go to the same reward center of the brain that drugs and alcohol.
I was just going to say, it's like hitting them with
and
whatever,
so
marijuana or cocaine.
It's an immediate gratification. And I used to be a gamer, and I remember, playing a game, for quite some time. And I'm like, hey, I need a break. And so I'd stop and I'm like, what would I like to do? Oh, I wanted to read that book over there. So I'd go over and I'd get that book and I'd make it halfway through the first paragraph and go, yeah, I'm going to go back and play that game.
Right. It doesn't have the same mental hit.
Right. There's no gold in this, and I
no shiny blips and bloops.
Right. I could have gotten all of this suddenly. All by this, the 6 seconds that I read half a paragraph, I would have been, 150,000 coins richer. Not really, but it's going to that part of the brain. And it would take about a day or a day and a half for my brain to come out of that mode.
Of like not playing video games to kind of like
video game and understanding that emotional piece and that instant gratification.
To detox. There's the words I'm looking for.
Detox. So I don't fault kids because they don't want to do chores. That's just life. I didn't want to do the chores either. Now, my parents found ways to be able to explain those. We talk about them in the manual as to chores that are just a part of being a part of the family, and then chores that you can do each week and you can earn an allowance. So there was a way that I could do things that would then gain me a monetary value. Some people use stickers. We've made up money in our homes at different times. There's a lot of ways to be able to do that, and then tie the electronics and some of those free time pieces to those types of monetary gains.
Yeah, it sounds like there's a lot of different options and ways to do it. And I think that is one of the things that is great about the manual and our courses and most of that stuff is that it's not a one approach fits all, one formula fits all. You really have to know your kids and your situation and then put those tools to work. And so if you're interested in learning more about that, definitely check out some of our other courses. and podcast and our manual. You can go to empoweringchoices.community, where you can find all of those things that you can download and be a part of. And we will see you on our next episode.